Hey guys, welcome back to DCS World. I'm Spudknocker, as always. Alright guys, I know you've already been inundated with DCS F-4E Phantom II content at this point, but my hope with this video is it will encompass the entire module and help you guys decide if this jet is going to be for you. We will start off the video talking about the fantastic upsides of this module. Then we'll move to maybe some areas that might need some work, and then we'll wrap up with a discussion that will help you make that all-important decision if you happen to still be on the fence with the F-4E. For me personally, finally having an F-4E Phantom II in DCS World is a dream come true, and practically a quasi-religious experience. Having grown up hearing stories about the air war over Vietnam from family members who were there, playing countless hours of the old Third Wire Strike Fighters and Strike Fighters 2 series of sims, and then going to university and spending innumerable hours studying the air war component of the Arab-Israeli wars, Iran-Iraq war, Vietnam War, and Middle Eastern culture, I still can't believe that we finally have an F-4E in DCS World. Jumping into Heapler's Phantom was a blast of nostalgia from my childhood, and the first thing I thought was, wow, Third Wire got the flight model really right all those years ago, which surprised the heck out of me. So let's jump into our discussion on the DCS F-4E Phantom II with the upsides of this module, of which there are many. The DCS F-4E Phantom II is of course from Heapler, the most beloved DCS World developer outside of Eagle Dynamics themselves, and with this module, they sure outdid themselves. And for those of you guys who are tired of early access and the uncertain futures of your favorite jet that you spent your hard-earned dollars on, this module is definitely for you. While technically releasing into early access, this is the most complete aircraft on day one since the F-14B Tomcat, also from Heapler. And not only is Heapler delivering a fully fleshed out aircraft, they're also pushing DCS World forward with new features like the Heapler UI, allowing for an in-game manual and browser, drawing on the canopy with a grease pencil, and in the future, character customization, allowing you to fly as Robin Olds in appropriate camouflaged out Vietnam-era flight gear, or a female pilot in proper modern-era flight gear with a tan flight suit and HGU-55 helmet. DCS World is already a fantastic sim, but it sorely needs to become a better game, and these features are a massive step in that direction. But I gotta admit, muscle memory kept creeping in, and I accidentally kept alt-tabbing to a Chrome tab to read the manual, so that's gonna take a little bit of getting used to. The moment you step into the office of the F-4E, you will immediately recognize the Heapler art style, and those of you who fly the F-14, Mirage F1, or F-5E Tiger II will immediately feel at home. Our Phantom has been ridden hard and put away wet. She definitely looks like she's been standing alert in the deserts of the Sinai, or flown 100 missions over Route Package 4, 5, and 6, or been cobbled together from Holtz and spare parts in Shiraz. But at the same time, Heapler seems to have made an effort to make the labels in the cockpit far more legible than they are in the F-14A and B Tomcat, which is a hugely welcome change, especially with how complex the cockpit can be at first glance. If you're a bit intimidated by the cockpit on your first look, definitely fear not. Once you start to dig into the systems of your F-4E, you'll find that all of the upgrades and technical orders modifications done to our jet have made the cockpit a joy to work in, and its rudimentary but very effective HOTAS system means your hands, and crucially your eyes, will never be wandering around the cockpit if you get bounced by MiGs or Sukhois. Every button and every switch in this cockpit has a function and are rarely duplicated, No longer do you have to remember different combinations of long, short, up, down, left, right, do a dance around your HOTAS to perform an action that is simply just flipping a physical switch in this aircraft, such as changing the polarity of black and white hot for an AGM-65 Maverick. Speaking of weapons, weapons like the AIM-7 Sparrow and AGM-65 Maverick are slick and a joy to use in the F-4E because these weapons that frustrate so many FA-18C and F-16C pilots and the avionics of the Phantoms were designed to work together hand in hand from the get-go. There's no kludging of 1960s and 70s weapons into 1980s and 90s avionics in this jet. Nearly all of the jet's weapons and systems work seamlessly in this very analog environment. This analog environment is of course magnificently recreated in the Westinghouse AN APQ-120 radar, housed just above and forward of the M61 Vulcan cannon in the nose of our Phantom II. When Heapler said that the AN APQ-120 radar is the beating heart of the F-4E in one of their videos, they really weren't kidding, and you will be utilizing it not just for air-to-air, but nearly every commonly used bombing method in the aircraft, such as target find, dive toss, dive laydown, and many more. Also importantly, Wizzos will find the radar approachable and easy to learn, but very hard to master. The perfect combination for a study level sim in my opinion. And while Gibbs will have a front row seat, pilots up front interacting with the radar through Jester or their Wizzo in the back will still see all the fantastic work put into bringing this old radar to life by Heapler through its ACM modes Bohr and CAA, and by rolling in on a target in Ed Rasmus's favorite delivery method, dive toss. It's my opinion that DCS pilots will be pleasantly and truly surprised by the power and versatility of the APQ-120 in combination with a well-flown soft-wing F-4E, and I cannot wait to see clips of F-4 pilots besting all the F-teeners on all sorts of servers going forward. But man, I gotta say the quirky and finicky Westinghouse AN AVQ-23 pave spike may just be my favorite part of the Heapler F-4E Phantom II. There is no experience in DCS World that matches what it's like to shack a target with what is essentially a rifle scope attached to a TV camera and slaved to a laser designator. This thing is hilariously fun to use, and you and your Wizzo will be frantically scrambling around both cockpits from the time you find your target to the moment your LGB impacts your chosen victim. Let's just hope you aren't flying through Sam City while you're trying to do it. With Pave Spike, I highly recommend going after large, fixed targets such as the Dragon's Jaw Bridge or the Osiris nuclear reactor. Your CBUs and AGM-65s are for tanks and trucks in this jet, not your LGBs. Now, if we were to keep talking about things I love about Heapler's F-4E, we would be here all day, so let's talk about some things that I think could use a little work going forward, and these things will honestly be pretty nitpicky, because I believe Heapler has overall done such a fantastic job. While I praised how beautifully gorgeous the cockpits of the F-4E are, and from a pure art perspective they are definitely amazing, some may find them to still be a bit too dirty and beaten up. I mean, a Japanese Air Self-Defense Force pilot, Wizzo, or ground crewman might have a heart attack upon seeing the ejection seat and instrument panel are not clean enough to eat off of, and might attack the jet with all manner of paints, stencils, and cleaning supplies. Some of the labels are a bit muddled and hard to read, but like I said earlier, as a whole, this is far and away better than the F-14 module and is a godsend with how busy the F-4E's cockpit can get. I have sometimes wondered if the devs are modeling a reference aircraft in a museum and how it looks sitting there for 30 plus years, or how it should look at the peak of the aircraft's career or rolling off the factory line. Let me know what you guys think would be the best in the comments section down below, because I find myself wavering between wanting a clean, pristine cockpit and loving the soul and artistry put into the cockpit of the F-14 and now the F-4 by Heatblur. My next two comments here are more of a wish list going forward than any kind of real criticism of the module. It would be awesome to be able to remove the pave spike equipment, such as the range and azimuth elevation indicators, from the front seat when the pave spike is not equipped, in the same fashion that the lantern control stick and HUD recorder camera can be removed from the cockpit of the F-14A and B. This would give us some more immersion while using our F-4 for early 1960s and 70s scenarios, or with operators that never received pave spike, such as Israel or Iran. Not to mention giving us just a little bit more of that precious forward visibility. But fun fact here, Turkish Air Force F-4Es have been photographed using pave spike pods as late as the 2023 Anatolian Eagle exercises, so they are definitely still out there kicking some butt. Another thing I do hope we can see going forward on the F-4E would be a way to fit a probe and drogue air-to-air refueling probe to better simulate Israeli F-4s roughly post-1974-ish timeframe. Maybe the community F-4E devs can help out and they can rip a probe right off an A4 like the Israelis did back in the day. This now takes us to the final part of today's video, a discussion on whether or not this module is for you if you're still sitting on the fence with this one. I definitely know it's hard for me to hide my shining approval of this new module here, so forgive me for that. I personally think that my fellow DCS World content creator Enigma is completely right that the future of DCS World is looking back into the Cold War and filling out the ranks of DCS aircraft with all the beautiful, wonderful, goofy, and iconic aircraft that the Cold War era has to offer. And in my opinion here, Heatblur's F-4E finally fills a huge gaping hole in the middle of that lineup to make a Cold War scenario in DCS World not just viable, but fun and interesting in an aircraft that is the jack of all trades, in the same way that our F-16C, F-A-18C, and F-15E are in the modern era. As you get into the Phantom II, and learn to fly and fight with her, you'll also see some ghosts and echoes of our favorite modern era jets, showing you that she is definitely the mother of all the capabilities we enjoy today, and that she was truly the first multi-role strike fighter. Some of you guys might be thinking, but I'm only interested in the modern era. There's no way that the F-4E Phantom II can compete and be a part of my virtual squadron's missions. My response to that is Heatblur's F-4E Phantom II ages like a fine wine throughout the eras of DCS World, just like she has in real life. You can fly as a red-hot, MiG-killing air superiority fighter in the 60s and 70s, then transition to a multi-role strike fighter, jack of all trades, and the backbone of NATO air forces through the 1980s and into the mid-90s, then eventually become the fast and survivable, dedicated ground attack pilot with some self-defense capability for both the red and the blue side here in the modern era. So if you guys love moving mud in the A-10C or AV-8B, with Falcons, Eagles, Tomcats, and Hornets giving you cover, the F-4E is definitely for you. If you love mixing it up in the Mirage F1, F-14A, and F-5E while the Rolling Stones or CCR blares in your helmet, then the F-4E is also right up your alley. Or if you are just a massive fan of the art and craftsmanship of the beautiful and beloved F-14A and B Tomcat from Heatblur, then you are definitely going to fall in love all over again with the F-4E. So whether you fly the F-4E yourself, or you're planning on flying alongside them, there are going to be many, many Phantom fanatics in DCS World for years and years to come now. Huge thanks to Heatblur for allowing me an early look at their gorgeous new module, and please fly safe out there guys, and leave a like and a subscribe for this video if it helped you make your decision.